You know Graybar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Graybar does that.
Somehow, against at times what felt like all odds, we have reached the final episode of 2020 for the Show Before the Show podcast. I'm not saying that reaching the final episode of 2020 was against all odds. I'm saying reaching the end of 2020 felt like it was against all odds at times. And we welcome you into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of Minor League Baseball from MILB.com. My name is Tyler Mon. Sam Dykstra is the man to my virtual side for podcasting purposes. Hi, Sam.
Hi, I like that introduction where I'm basically on all sides of you.
Yeah, you're omnipresent.
Yes, exactly. Sure, let's go with that.
It's a different episode for us this week. We're going to be joined here in just a little bit by Benjamin Hill, and we will look back on the year that was in 2020 for all of us, not just from the standpoint of what we would ordinarily discuss with Ben. And Sam and I aren't really going to talk as much in this opening segment as we ordinarily would. Some housekeeping items about the site and what we've currently got up. We have finished our State of the System series, all 30 major league organizations up and published at MILB.com. You can find those. Sam, what else we've been rolling through best of the decade stuff. We've got those things all over the place. Had some road to the show stories that have been up. There was one breaking news item this past week that unfortunately the 10th ranked prospect in the Detroit Tiger system, Alex Faedo, will have to undergo Tommy John surgery later on this month. So he will miss whatever there will be of a 21 season wherever he would have been assigned. What else are we updating people on before we get into the holiday meat of this episode?
Yeah, so by the time you guys hear this, Ben didn't get a chance to plug on his stuff because we had so much else to talk about in this segment you guys are about to hear. But he's been working on these best promos of the decade stories and looking back on each year, what happened in promotions in that year. So that's actually going to be wrapping up on Christmas Eve, December 24th. So by the time you guys hear this, that'll be up on the site. That will allow that series to come to a conclusion. Go back and read the rest of that series. We talked a lot about it here on the show with Ben in the past, but it's a great way to see it all in one place. How everything came together in a certain year, what's the legacy of that year, what still carries over in terms of promotions from 2011 or 2015, or when did the food trend begin? When did promo jerseys really kick in, or Star Wars, or what have you? Ben really covers it from the beginning of the decade all the way until 2019. So that came to a wrap this Thursday when you guys are hearing this. Go check that out. And again, so much still on the site. Tyler covered the Dodgers with the State of the System. Dodgers being the best record this year. They are our final organization that has been covered. So if you missed your favorite team's State of the System, go back and find that. We've got those all documented in each story. And they're pretty easy to find, going through alternate site standouts. What are the strengths of the system, the weaknesses of the system, areas to grow, who's the next big thing. It's been really cool to see those come together across all 30 major league organizations. So I do encourage you to go check those out.
And with that, let's get to it. Our conversation for this week with Benjamin Hill, our good buddy who you can find at Ben's Biz on Twitter and at the Ben's Biz on Instagram and all over the site at miob.com/Ben's Biz. We're talking a lot of heartfelt things for 2020 on a very special episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. I ruined the joke that I made later on in the episode. I made that joke, but we already recorded this segment, and now I double dipped with the joke, and it's ruined.
Just act surprised, everybody. When you come to that, just laugh at home.
Right.
Along with Tyler, as if he said it for the first
man,
time.
he's so funny. Look at that joke. I need your validation, is what I'm saying.
All the time. That's what he's saying every week.
He's Sam. I'm Tyler. Benjamin Hill coming up next.
This past year has shown us that without your health, you have nothing. If you're not well, you can't work, look after yourself, or take care of your family. You can't enjoy the life you've worked so hard to build. That's why you need to prioritize taking care of your long-term health today, before it goes from good to bad to worse. So invest in your long-term health with Forward. Forward is intelligent medicine with a personal touch. Their doctors are dedicated to catching top killers like cancer and heart disease early before it's too late. And catching them early could save you tens of thousands of dollars in the long run. Everyone's health history is different, which is why Forward doctors personalize a health plan with you, based on your genetics, lifestyle, and biometrics to achieve long-term results and ensure nothing gets missed. It's time to invest in a doctor that's invested in you. Go to GoForward.com today to protect your future health. That's GoForward.com. GoForward.com.
And delighted this holiday week to welcome in our good buddy, Benjamin Hill from New York City. I assume from New York City. Hi, Ben. I haven't talked to you in forever.
It has been a while. It's just been Sam and I and Sam and I and Sam and I and Sam and I so often. I just started to say Sam and I so often it kind of sounded like samurai. And then I would think of Sam as like a warrior.
I was going to say, you could say Sam and I with more gusto there, Ben. You could be like, it was a very pleasant experience. You could have.
It was a very pleasurable. And I looked forward to it. But, this podcast at its core is, Sam and Tyler. And so we needed some Tyler to end the year.
It was a rejected alternate title for The King and I, Sam and I. People forget that the King's name was Sam.
I mean, if you wanted to do the synonyms, of King and I, it would be Sam and I, right? That's
right, totally.
Right,
exactly.
Of course, yes. I say with total humility. And,
oh, man. Well, it's good to talk to you both, as always. It's been the most trying year that I know pretty much any of us can remember. And as we get to the final days of it, we know, I think for a long time, especially in the early stages of the pandemic and into the summer and all that, it became such an obvious thing to just be like, man, 2020, can't wait for this to be over. And I think we've all realized as we've gotten deeper and deeper into the year that like once the calendar hits 2021, it's not as though everything goes away and life returns to normal and we're all back to the existence that we remember from this time last year. But there is something to be said about the fact that 8 days from now, we're all going to get to turn a page and maybe feel a little bit more recharged or a little bit different, or, that energy that comes along with, okay, this is a new year. Let's hope that it's better than the last one. But it's good for us to at least get a chance to reflect, because this would have been an extraordinarily difficult year, just given everything that's gone on. But in our industry, it's been a very challenging and very different kind of year as well.
Yeah, it absolutely has. A season unlike any other, or a season that did not even exist. So can you be like anything else when you don't exist? There's nothing to compare to nothing. I don't know if that was profound or really stupid, but it's just been so hard to contextualize what everyone's gone through this year, and of course what the industry has gone through, and of course what minor league baseball has gone through, and not having a season, and then heading into a 2021 that's very uncertain as well.
That is the truth. And we are going to attempt to crystallize some of our thoughts from this weird 2020 as we head toward the turn of the calendar to 2021 and hopefully a semi-normal baseball season to follow. And with that, this is all due to Sam. He is the the one who created the concept for this episode, and it's such a good idea. And we're going to talk about 4 different things for each of us: what we lost in 2020, what we learned, what we missed most, and what we're looking forward to most in 2021. And we're going to go in kind of a round table. I'm going to start with you guys, and Ben, we'll kick it off with you. We're going to go category by category. So in 2020, and we're going to, talk mostly about baseball, but also I'm sure other things are going to come up in our conversation today. But when you look at 2020, Ben, obviously, I think the overriding feeling for a lot of people in 2020 is what we've lost. What do you look back on this year as the thing that stands out most?
Yeah, I mean, putting aside that we all lost the 2020 minor league season, I guess I think, briefly, I think of 2 things that, within the minor league baseball industry, a lot of people lost their jobs, laid off or furloughed. So just so much uncertainty for people career-wise. As you guys know, as a lot of listeners know, it's a tough industry to get into. Just having gone to the winter meetings year after year, of course, not in 2020, you just see all the job seekers, how many people are just so willing to get into this industry despite the hardships. So for people to have gotten into the industry and then lost their jobs and still have a lot of uncertainty about 2021, I think that's a big thing that's been lost. And then, yes, we lost the entire season, but with the reorganization of the landscape, we lost some quote unquote final seasons for teams that, would have had their final season as an affiliated team. So not being able to market around that for a lot of teams or, a lot of leagues like the Appalachian League, which will exist going forward, summer collegiate, but to have lost the ability to say goodbye to the current context, in a context that in some cases had been something in place for decades upon decades, to not have a proper goodbye to those final seasons as we head into a 2021 with new arrangements, I think was particularly difficult for those teams and those fans.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to put it. And it's as trite as it is to say, it's kind of the Joni Mitchell line about not knowing what you've got till it's gone, because none of us ever expected anything like this, obviously, but it would have been strange enough had this happened 5 years ago. And in 2021, essentially we go into just another season. We just had to skip one. But the fact that we're going to be going into such a bizarrely changed landscape in our industry is something that is so weird about this year. Sam, what about you? What stands out when you think about what's lost in 2020?
Yeah, I mean, kind of piggybacking off what Ben said there is that in terms of just the industry and because of how big the industry is and how much of the country it really permeates and extends beyond our borders, obviously, with the Dominican and Vancouver up there in Canada and the Toronto Blue Jays system as a whole. But, what we lost this year, you look at coronavirus and how that's affected people and how it's touched basically at this point all of our lives in one way or another. And it still feels weird to think about. God, I hope it always feels weird to look at the death totals of this year, and we're over 300,000 now here in the United States, and how many people from the industry have passed away. I think a lot about the Myrtle Beach bus driver Terrence Timmons. How many people were touched by his passing and felt so bad, and that's just a bus driver, and how many. It feels like just a bus driver. I never wanted to describe him just that way, but how the effect a bus driver has on a team and how many people are involved in that team.
And in the sense that he's not around the team every single day and he still has that much of an impact.
Exactly. Yeah. And he was only 46 years old. And to lose him like that, we lost a lot of people this year. We were talking off mic about some of the celebrities we lost this year, not all through COVID, but you always want to come back to that, is that this is a baseball industry at its core, but also it's an industry that spreads far and wide, and there's so many people involved. And when something like this hits the entire country, the entire world like a ton of bricks, it's going to hit us as well. There is no escaping that. So I think a lot about the people we've lost this year in that aspect, and then to kind of bring it back to what my daily job is, to talk about prospects. Kind of at a base level, what I think we lost this year was development time with prospects. You just look at the top 100 names this year, and I only have the top 10 right here. And I'm thinking about what we lost with them. Wander Franco, we didn't see it all this year. We didn't get to see him play in a game. We talked about it at the beginning of the year. Was he going to play in the majors? We talked about it going to the World Series. Was he going to debut in the majors? It never happened. So we never got to see him there. We got to see a little bit of him in winter ball. This was supposed to be Adley Rutschman's first full season. Never got to see him outside the alternate training site. Mackenzie Gore, never got to see him. Spencer Torkelson, he would have been debuting as a minor leaguer completely. Would have loved to have seen how that power would have played at the lower levels. Didn't get that. Royce Lewis was coming off a lot of question marks in 2019. How is he going to answer those this year at AA? We didn't get any answers to that beyond what happened at the alternate training site. We talked to Bobby Witt Jr. at times this year. I had a really fun conversation with him. It was supposed to be his first full season. A lot of people thought he could have maybe jumped and put together a really strong offensive season. We didn't get to see it in a minor league baseball facility. That hurts. Jared Kelnick and Julio Rodriguez, two guys we had on the show this year, and we were very grateful for that. Kind of the Bash brothers of the Mariners system, but also kind of the Bash brothers of outfield prospects in general. What could they have accomplished this year? We got strong reports from them. I know Julio Rodriguez was injured for a good part of the year, but we got strong reports coming out of Tacoma and the alternate training site for the Mariners. We didn't get to see them take that next step. We probably will in 2021. I would expect both of them to debut next year, next to Rookie of the Year Kyle Lewis. But one of the joys of this job, and that's only speaking personally, but I know a lot of you at home feel the same way when you watch minor league baseball, is seeing these guys grow, seeing them take that next step, seeing them do something at the beginning of the year and doing something different at the end. In some ways they were able to do that. Workouts at home, workouts at alternate training sites, at Instructs, all that kind of stuff. But the way we get to measure it is in minor league stadiums, watching games on MILB.TV, following box scores, seeing clear trends. We didn't get that this year. I don't know if we're going to know entirely, maybe for a few years, like what the long-term effect of a lost year of development like this is. But know that it's going to be something we're going to have to think about going forward. It's in 2022 and 2023, we're probably going to be asking like, hey, where do you think you would have been if you would have gotten a full 2020? It's going to be a while until we know the effects of this. So just speaking from a purely baseball aspect, that's something I feel like we lost this year.
Yeah, I echo a lot of what you guys said. And just to try to, add something different into the conversation, the thing that I think about a lot in 2020 is losing the ease of being around other people, especially groups of people and big crowds. I mean, I was a day away from taking off for spring training, which is always my favorite week of the year, getting a chance to go down and talk to prospects, talk to player development people. And just, on the afternoons when you've filed a story and you're already kind of done for the day and you just go sit and watch a baseball game, and the atmosphere of spring training where everybody's there, as relaxed and happy as they are, for anything in any given year. That's kind of the feeling that spring training brings out. And the world shut down the day before I was supposed to go do that. And since then, none of us has really been in a circumstance where we've been around large groups of people. We certainly haven't been in that circumstance in the context of sports. And that's really difficult for those of us who, at least speaking for myself, and I think to an extent you guys too, I get a lot of energy from being around other people. I mean, even if it's just something as simple as, all right, I'm on a deadline with this story about this prospect, whatever, and I can't get motivated at home, I'm going to go sit at a coffee shop and try to work because there are other people around and then I'll feel like I'm a little bit more motivated. Even nowadays, we add video highlights to stories. I filed the Dodgers State of the System story for this week. It ran today. We're recording on the 23rd, and highlight of Josiah Gray picking up his 9th strikeout in a game for Tulsa. And you just look at a ballpark full of people and think, man, I really miss that. That to me is the toughest thing about 2020 is the way that the virus has isolated all of us in every sense of the word. And in a year when we could all use that contact and we could all use a hug from somebody, or we could all use just the ability to gather, that to me is almost the cruelest thing about all of this. Especially when viewed in the context of people who have lost their lives or people who have lost loved ones and couldn't be around them. That's the hardest thing about 2020 for me, is the fact that we've all lost each other to a certain extent. And my hope is, as the vaccines continue to be rolled out and people hopefully continue doing the things to get us over the line, by, washing hands and wearing masks and keeping distance from people you don't live with and all that. My hope is that we'll get back to that sooner rather than later, but that has been a painful void to feel in the world of 2020. What we learned this year, I think, this is probably the time in our lives that we'll look back on hopefully 10 years from now and think about what came out of this. For all of us right now, it's probably more difficult than it will be down the road to pinpoint this. But Ben, what do you think has been the biggest lesson for you this year?
Yeah, I would say that I learned, how resilient the minor league baseball industry is, but I think I already knew that, but it was still remarkable and definitely, a learning experience, for me as I'm covering this unprecedented season. There's no games going on. Just, learning how adaptable, minor league front offices really are, even, if they've been reduced, or had their own layoffs or whatever. But just right from the start, covering, parking lot fireworks and, drive-in movie nights and, curbside concessions and on and on and on. Just how much energy the teams are willing to put in to engage with the community and, talking to these teams. And there was often, in the interviews I would do with front office members, a little bit of maybe off the record, just resignation of like, yeah, okay, this might make us X amount of money, but, that's like almost nothing compared to what we really need to make. But it's still better than nothing. And it's still, I think, it's just so good for morale to keep engaging, to keep doing stuff, to keep connecting. And to see that throughout the industry all year round was great. And for me on a personal level, I think that's what I learned is how important to me my audience is and the people who I engage with. Even though I worked out of my bedroom the entire year, and that's where I've recorded, I think, every single podcast segment with you guys. And of course, where I'm sitting right now, I felt so much less alone than I think I would have, because I'm interacting with people every single day on email and Twitter and, podcast interviews. And there's just so much conversation, and it just made me feel so grateful for the people who are willing to interact with that way every day, who clearly have similar sensibilities to mine and to ours, and who love minor league baseball. And I just learned how grateful I am for that and for this audience and for this job. I've always loved this job, but, I've been doing it a long time. And when you do anything a long time, you can start to feel like I'm just doing the same thing every year. But then to not do it made me realize how much I miss it and how grateful I am for everybody who listens to this podcast, who's there on Twitter every day. I feel like a lot of these people are my friends. Sometimes I see them not doing well or expressing, being depressed on Twitter, and I just want to be able to do something for them, because these people you build up relationships, even if it's just on social media and email. And I'm just really grateful for this audience.
Sam, what about you?
Yeah, kind of, again, picking up what Ben put on. I'm going to get to a more baseball specific thing and more prospect specific thing here in a minute. But the first thing that kind of comes to mind is just how wide and big and expansive minor league baseball truly is. Can you imagine any other, not even just sport, just thing, like if it went away for a year and you had to cover it for a year? This is going to become a little too inside baseball and navel gazing for a second, but just stick with me. So, like something goes away for a year. Imagine if a political reporter covered Congress and Congress just went away for a year and they had to cover you couldn't go out and cover other things. You had to cover Congress. How would that
be good
go?
for us all, folks? Am I
It
right?
would be good for us. Yeah. In some ways, yes. In some ways, very much no. Government is good, people. It should exist and it should do good things.
Second.
But as an aside, but yeah, it's just like what happened this year was what we do on a day-to-day basis from April to September. And you can expand that out. You go February when pitchers and catchers report. You can go to the end of the Arizona Fall League in November and December. But still, what we do every day just went away, essentially. And yet every weekday we were coming out with stories. That says something about the staff, which I'm incredibly proud of. yeah, I'm going to take this opportunity to thank everybody for that, and just the creativity we had, and covering the sport from multiple angles, whether it's Ben talking about these drive-through stadium options, or eating at the stadium, or movie nights, or whatever, or so many people writing about the history of the game and how far back it goes, and how many stories we probably hadn't had the opportunity to tell yet, and we did this year. We took the opportunity to go back, find some people you may not have heard of, but now you do, because we wrote about it a little bit more and brought that to the site. You wonder, back in March, who knew how long this was going to go? And I was wondering, like, how long can we keep this going? And here we are in December, and I can pretty much say, I can definitively say that there was never a hole in our coverage. There was never a hole in finding things to talk about for minor league baseball. Yes, we did some series that went for a little longer than they would have, and that was great. Again, that requires some creativity and all that, but it just tells you just how big minor league baseball is, and how many different angles you can come at this monster. And I mean that monster in a good way. So that's something I really learned this year. But pivot it back to baseball and prospects, and what I'm normally here to talk about, just the way that sometimes players really did handle the jump straight to the majors this year. So many times in the past, we've talked about, a guy needs development time. They need to hit certain levels before they make the major leagues. This year, because there were no minor leagues, we saw a number of players jump straight from either the Class A or Class A advanced level, if that's where they finished 2019. And they got a little bit of development time in the spring, a little bit of development time at the alternate training site and summer camp. But if the major league team had a hole and they thought that was the best player to do it, they were sending them straight to the majors. That's something that I hope continues. I as much as I love the minors and seeing guys move up as they move along, I know Juan Soto is kind of an extreme example, but I think he showed, like, if you can play, you can play, and if you can play at the top level, that's where you should be. So one of the things I keep coming back to this year, we talked about a number of times on the show, was the number of players who were called up straight to the majors for the postseason. Alex Kirilloff being the most famous example as a top 100 prospect, but Ryan Weathers, somebody we had on the show, and we asked, do you feel close to the majors? He's like, yeah, sort of. And then there he is making his debut in the playoffs. Shane McClanahan with the Tampa Bay Rays. There were a couple other people who were added, but either didn't play or aren't coming to mind right now. But yeah, it was just kind of fascinating to see that happen. And I wonder how much of a change that's going to, or how much of a change is going to come as a result of that, and seeing these guys succeed and seeing them put into big spots. It's something we're going to have to keep an eye on going forward. Especially as the CBA changes, what is that going to mean for service time and all that? We'll have to see. But that's one of my big takeaways, at least from the baseball side, is just, hey, if a guy can play and we think he's ready and we think his tools and his stuff plays in the majors right now, give him that chance. And teams were rewarded for that, I think, in 2020.
Yeah, I think I've been sitting here trying to crystallize what exactly the crux of this is going to be. I think the thing that I was most thrilled week to week to learn about this year through the podcast was just the humanity of the prospects that we have on. Ordinarily, in every season leading up to this year, we get guys on and we talk about baseball and we talk about how they're climbing toward the majors and, their draft process and what it was like being in school or what it was like as an international player before they got signed or whatever it is. Normally there is that kind of barrier between journalists and interview subjects. And this year, I feel like that was really broken down because the circumstances outside of us all affected us all in the same ways. I mean, there was nothing about the pandemic that did not hit professional athletes in a similar manner. And the fact that it shut down their work and left a lot of uncertainty for guys who, I did the Dodgers state of the system story. And one of the guys that I talked with, Will Rhymes, their director of player development, about is a guy who was a guest of the podcast, Josiah Gray. And he pointed out, which I think Josiah also mentioned to us when we talked to him, he couldn't go home during the pandemic because his hometown, New Rochelle, New York, was essentially at the epicenter of the early first surge of COVID cases. And so he was basically stuck in Arizona during the whole initial stages of the pandemic. And while stuck there, not like he could go into the facility, not like he could go work out, couldn't go throw, couldn't go do all the normal stuff. These guys were all affected in such similar ways to the rest of us. And I think that helped kind of pull that curtain back between us. And Josiah Gray is one of the great examples. Nick Heath was a great example for us. Tyler Stevenson, who we've mentioned, several times. Sam and I got done with the interview with Tyler Stevenson in the Cincinnati organization. And we spent 45 minutes just talking about life after that, and where he was and what it was like. And he was asking us if we had heard anything about the season, or if we knew anything about anything else pandemic related that he hadn't heard yet. And it just it showcased a different side to all of our interactions. And I feel like Interviews for Stories have been that way. And in addition to everything that we've done on the podcast, and also in a similar vein to that, hearing from so many, as Ben and Sam both touched on, from so many people in the community of minor league baseball, hearing from them how they value our work, and from our side, how much we value everything that they do, whether they're front office employees or, people who contribute to teams in any way, or just fans. The fact that minor league baseball for the last couple of decades has essentially set an attendance record every single year. And minor league baseball fans are a special group of people because it takes something different to be a fan as passionately about minor league baseball as so many of our fans are. You're not cheering for the highest levels of a sport. You're cheering for people who are in the process of trying to reach the highest level of a sport. And that's a fascinating nuance to people who really dig minor league baseball. And that's what I really love about minor league baseball fans. And so seeing all of that humanity in the face of something so daunting as we have all dealt with this year has been, at times it's been really emotional for us this year. And it's something that we're forever indebted to, obviously the fans of minor league baseball, people who are fans of the show, and all the players and coaches and front office members and player development people and everybody who we've talked to this year, other journalists who we've talked to for stories. And it's been pretty incredible to see that, how everybody really does, we get caught up so often nowadays in the polarization, and there's a partisan divide and blah, blah, blah. But I really do genuinely believe that at their heart, most people are just people, and we're all in some way, when you take off the mask of, who you voted for or what you believe on a given issue or whatever, I think people genuinely want to extend a hand and lift up other people, in way more cases than not. And, for the people who don't, we're not really catering to you for this podcast anyway. But I just, that's something that I've really appreciated about 2020, is being able to feel all of that love from other people. And hopefully we've been able to reciprocate that in some way. Third category is what we missed most about this season. And obviously a lot of the stuff that we've already touched on is kind of included in this category. But Ben, when you think about a thing that you miss most from 2020, what was it?
Yeah, like you said, we've touched on a lot of it so far. But I guess speaking more specific to my job, every year since 2010 through 2019, a big part of my summer was traveling, ballpark road trips. And, over that decade-long period, I was able to go to every active minor league park. And that was just a big part of my summer, and obviously something I missed a lot. There would have been 4 new ballparks in 2020 that, I would like to think that I would have gotten to otherwise. And, it was always just such a joy to go to new places and to learn about new places, and to be on those roads, and to learn about the regional snacks and convenience stores and restaurants. And, I just miss, and I don't have a car. I live in Brooklyn. I haven't had a car since 2002. And so those road trips are my only opportunity to, drive a car. And I missed getting a rental car. And, I'd always, it's more and more rare as time goes on, but, I'd always load up my little CD booklet, which I got for being a student season ticket holder for Pitt football my freshman year. This little Pitt Panthers logo CD booklet. I still bring it on every road trip and get in the rental car, and I say, I hope we get this car has a CD player. And note to auto manufacturers, keep putting CD players in your cars. Some of us really like it. And it's been a great thing. I've listened to a lot more music. During the pandemic, instead of a morning commute, I just kind of listen to records and drink coffee. But a lot of time I'm like, man, I want to listen to this album on the road. I want this to be in my rental car. I miss that kind of thing. And just the little things about being on a road, just the hotels and, finding a restaurant like a Wingstop that's open after a ball game, and working late into the night while MTV airs 17 episodes of ridiculousness in a row, and all those like little things that just are part of being on the road for me that I didn't get to be a part of. And and also to kind of bring it back and touch on what Tyler just spoke about, and America and Americans, and something I've struggled with a lot in this time of polarization and in this time of certain directions our country has gone that I just find really hard to fathom. I love going all over the country and seeing. It's always been hard to square just how polarized we are with just how much I liked everybody everywhere. And I just felt it was a great antidote to being online and all the yelling and all the anger and just being, I don't want to be delusional, but I always just felt like, having gone everywhere, like Americans have more in common than I think we often realize. And having a job that allows me to go to all these places and get out of my own bubble, Brooklyn, New York City, was great. And I always felt welcome everywhere I went. And yes, I'm a guy who doesn't do anything controversial and and wasn't getting into political arguments, but it really helped humanize everywhere for me, and has just given me a much, I think, fuller and richer view of America, and that's something I really miss. And we don't know what's going to happen in 2021, but yeah, I'm looking forward to getting out to Wichita and Huntsville with Rocket City and Fredericksburg and Kannapolis, and maybe it'll be a new ballpark in Beloit, and Sam in Worcester. And
you had to do it. Why? You were doing so well. Like I was so, oh man, you were making me emotional, and then you just threw me off with Worcester.
Spell your cities right, then, Massachusetts.
Blame the English for all things, really, but blame the English. Worcester. We're gonna get this right. Worcester.
So,
I thought it was Worcester.
Yeah.
Not from my part of the state. I say my R's in this part of the state, but yeah, Worcester.
Yeah, but that's what I miss. Being out there among America and Americans and feeling good.
Sam, what about you?
Again, I think we're going to piggyback off each other a lot in this segment, but Tyler said this before in terms of being a part of crowds and seeing crowds happen. And Tyler just missed being able to go to Arizona. I was in Florida when things shut down. It'll be a day that I never forget, probably as long as I'm in this career. Being in Port Charlotte, being at Tampa Bay Rays, and hearing things about spring training being shut down while there's a Grapefruit League game happening, and all that. But one of the things I always do when I go to a ballpark is I look out and there are people there. I've never been to a game that's been played behind closed doors. I didn't get to cover Major League Baseball games this year. So every game I've gone to has pretty much been with fans. And I always harken back to my own memories and think, there were times in my life in which I went to one baseball game a year. Sometimes that was a minor league game. Sometimes we were lucky enough to make that a major league game, but that was your one game a year. And you thought something special could happen today. And even if it was the smallest thing, it didn't matter. Like if it was a really good double play that wouldn't even make SportsCenter top 10, that was special to you. And that's something you got to carry, and you got to play in the backyard or the street or down at the school, whatever. That was special to you. And this year we lost a year of memories. We lost a year of development time. We lost a year of minor league baseball and everything that comes with that. But one of the things I think I'm going to miss most, or I miss most, is that feeling of seeing not even just kids, adults out there who maybe this is their one game this year. They were robbed of those memories, and we got to watch it on TV. And if you're a Dodgers fan, you had a lot of really good memories this year. If you're a Rays fan, you had some special memories too. I'm going to carry that Brett Phillips walk-off with me for a very long time. But in terms of the memories that we could have had for being in the ballpark, trying some funky food that you wouldn't get anywhere else, or catching a ball, or any of the experiences you have at the minor league place, I just miss that feeling of looking out and knowing everybody's getting that experience. And again, going back to what I normally write about and cover, in terms of prospects. I missed having breakout prospects this year. Yes, there were a couple that impressed us in the major leagues and still have prospect eligibility and got to do some fun things. I don't think anybody saw this coming from Devin Williams, for example. He's no longer a prospect, but him winning the Rookie of the Year was really special. And to see his changeup become perhaps the best pitch in baseball was really cool. But we get to do that at so many other levels. You get to do that at AAA, AA, Class A, Advanced Class A, short season when we had it. We lost that this year. The top 100 list is going to move a little bit. And I'm not involved in that process, but based on what I know about the sport, it might move a little bit based on what guys were doing at the majors and some of the reports, but it's going to be basically unchanged for the most part. Wander Franco, nobody's going to unseat him at the top spot. I would have loved to have seen somebody challenge him for that. Somebody we didn't see coming at all. That would have been really cool. So that's what I miss. I love writing stories about breakout prospects. Guys are doing new things that we don't get to see. Maybe they did that this year. And if they did, we wrote about them in other ways, but getting to see them do that on the field and really celebrate them in that way for improving their game in ways that we didn't get to see coming. I just missed the surprise aspect of covering the game in that way. So here's to more of it in 2021. Whoever's going to be the breakout prospects of 2021, can't wait to see it. Couldn't tell you who it's going to be right now. That's the whole point of breakout. But yeah, when I look back, that's one of the other things I missed too.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things year after year with MILB, and I've kind of carved myself the niche with this, is on game nights when something weird happens. If I'm on, Darren Smith and Paige Schechter, our editors, always seem to funnel those stories toward me. So whether it's, the time a few years ago when Lane Adams played in a AAA game in the afternoon and then a major league game at night, or if there's an animal on the field during a night game, or there's a game in Lancaster where they combine for 900 runs, which is pretty much like a nightly thing. Those stories that just pop up and you don't know where they're coming or when they're coming, and they just kind of jump at you out of nowhere. I miss those. Those are always a lot of fun, and they're always the things that I'm most excited to try to execute well. We had a story about a hidden ball trick a couple of years ago that was super fun to do with Rochester. I miss that stuff. And, on a larger, not to get too super existential, but on a larger note, not being able to do, as most everybody knows, I do a lot of broadcasting work as well. Not being able to do that in addition to not having nightly baseball stuff to write about. There's a lot of feelings of loss of identity when you love something that you do so much and you don't get to have it, especially when it's through really no fault or no decision of your own or anybody else's around you, but it's something that's completely uncontrollable in your world. That's really difficult. And, I feel really grateful that over the last few weeks, I've gotten a lot of that broadcasting stuff back. And obviously I'm beyond grateful the fact that, we've been able to hold out and keep these positions and get to do the podcast and get to explore some other fun stuff in minor league baseball over the last year that we haven't had real games to write about and all that. But I just miss that daily energy that comes with covering live sports or, monitoring games and box scores or seeing something funky on Twitter and thinking, I'm going to try to write about that or whatever it is. Not having that around this year, you feel the void and the absence of that so powerfully. And, there's a lot of mental gymnastics that go along with the fact that we're in the worst stretch of the pandemic that we have seen as a nation and as a world right now. And in a lot of ways, we're trying to push through it and do things that I'm not sure necessarily the best advised. I mean, we're, talking right now about contingency plans in the college football landscape for, what if one of these teams in the playoff can't field a team? We saw in the Pac-12 that a school did not get to go to the conference championship game because they were so ravaged by COVID cases. We are not in anything resembling normalcy, but for the little times when we're able to just lose ourselves back in the moment of something that we love and something that's fun, whether it's, talking to a player development person about prospects at the alternate site or, guys who made surprise appearances this year in the big leagues or whatever it is, when we get back to the framework of what we love, there's still so much that I know, at least for me, helps me feel like myself again for the first time since the middle of March. And I missed all of that. And it's a tremendous feeling to be able to get some of that back. And hopefully, I can't tell you how many player development people I've talked to over the last, few months, especially as we've done our state of the system stories, but how many people I'll just ask the question, overall, what were kind of your impressions, your feelings about the alternate site? And most everyone has said, well, I hope it's something that we never have to do again. And that's, I think, how we all feel. But I also think there are going to be, Will Rhymes from the Dodgers gave me such an interesting point where he said, I think it's going to take us a few years to really learn how it affected players' developments, but I think there are a lot of guys who are going to be vastly ahead in their careers of where they would have been had this been a normal year because of the things that they got tested by this year. Whether it was just at the alt site, working, against other fellow top prospects, or in summer camp, pitching in a big league stadium against major league hitters. And that kind of stuff is fascinating. And obviously it'll take some time for us to see what the true impact of this is. And I hope that we never have to do anything like this again. But yeah, I do think that there will be things that we learn coming out of all of the stuff that we missed this year. And so with that, we arrive at our last topic for this, this is like a very special episode of the show before the show. We need like that Full House last scene music where they're like learning the moral lesson. We should, I'm going to play that when we dive into the, no, I'm not actually going to play.
I was going to say, you're the one who edits this show.
I do.
Are you talking to yourself? Like, we could do that, but you're the one who has to do it.
Production note for me.
Yeah.
What we're looking forward to most in 2021. We're ending this on the positive note that the future is brighter, hopefully in the, longer term, maybe not in the next few months exactly, but we're heading toward a brighter future. And what we're looking forward to most in 2021, Benjamin Hill, take us away.
Yeah, I mean, we've touched on so many topics, and I think what I am looking forward to most, in the minor leagues, just getting back at it. All the things we talked about that we missed or that we lost, looking forward to getting them back as soon as possible. It might not be right away, might not be a traditional opening day in April, but it will come back. And, that's a story of, not to be cliche about it, but the story of America is told through the story of baseball in a lot of ways, or vice versa. And, it always comes back. So, I have a sense of optimism about the future for sure. And, kind of tied in with that on a personal level, I told you guys this, I guess, last month at some point, but haven't really gone public with it all that much. I'm a comparatively private guy, I suppose, but I'm going to be a dad in 2021.
Yeah!
Hooray!
Congrats, Ben!
Yeah. I say, yeah, I'm happy about it. I said, yeah, like, oh no, but it's a big thing. It's a big thing. Jill, my girlfriend, partner, whatever you want to call her, she moved in the very end of March, and it was a crazy time. And that was when things were so new with the pandemic. Even just moving felt weird. So I was adjusting to that. I've been living alone for a few years prior to that. And then in July, found out she was pregnant, and it was a mild shock, to say the least, but I'm just really excited about it, and don't know how that will. There's so much uncertainty with just the reorganization of the minor league landscape, and where we're at with COVID, and then on top of that, for me on a personal level, how I do this job as a dad. But I'm really excited about it. It was something that when I was younger, I always kind of thought would happen. The way when you're a kid, you're just kind of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna grow up and I'm gonna be married, I'm gonna have kids, and it just kind of sounds like just something that happens. And my path was different, had some ups and downs, way too much to get into right now. But here I am, February 26th is the due date, and that's pretty close, just about 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are. And maybe after we're done taping this, I'll maybe put up something on Twitter, because I got to cover all the bases now that I'm getting this info public. But Ben's Biz the Dad coming soon.
And we're all very excited for you. That's awesome. Yeah. It's one of the best things to come of 2020.
That is true. That is pretty awesome. And Sam, you're not going to top that. But
I literally cannot.
Twins.
if I need to segue, this is definitely going to be true of Ben, but the kind of main thesis of what I'm looking forward to for 2021 is that every day is going to be a learning day. We talked a little bit here about the reorganization plan and the fact that there's only going to be 4 levels of minor league baseball in 2021. We've talked in the past about the invitations that have been sent out. Nothing's official yet. Those are just invitations to become partners with MLB teams. It seems very likely that all of those teams will accept, but until they do it, we can't say that they're definitely going to be the partners for 2021 and beyond. That being said, there's so much new about minor league baseball because of that. And there are going to be some ways that we can, prepare for it. And we're going to certainly preview the season to come in the months to come once everything's, all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. But there's so much that we won't know until it's in motion. How are some of these Class A advanced leagues going to work in a new setup? Like, what is it going to be like that Vancouver and some of these other Northwest League teams are now full season leagues? What does that mean? What does it mean that the Brooklyn Cyclones and the Hudson Valley Renegades are now full season teams? What does that mean? How are some of the park effects going to affect some of these leagues and how we view them? We're going to have to find that out in time. We can preview it again, but seeing it all come together is going to be interesting. And that also just ties into what I've kind of covered a lot here today, which is so much of minor league baseball and watching these players is finding out new things about them. That's the great thing about sports. If we knew exactly what was going to happen, we'd all be in Vegas just rolling around in cash all the time. So much about sports is learning new things, learning what players can do, learning what front offices are trying to put together, the moves they make. They can try to set up a good team, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work out in September, October, November. So we're going to be learning along with them and along with you at home. And I really look forward to that process once again, getting that kicked into gear, once minor league baseball is playing again and seeing where these players are at, learning what they're able to do now, what maybe they're not able to do anymore, what they're trying to do next. That just feeds this very specific part of my brain that really needs to be fed after 2020. So I'm really looking forward to that opportunity. Every day is going to be a learning day, and that's a great thing for all of us once we get there.
I don't think that this is anything that I would say lightly at all, because obviously this has been a heinous year and a heartbreaking year and a devastating year for all of us, but especially for those who have lost loved ones. And, as Sam noted, we're over 300,000 dead in this country alone. And it has been a tremendously dark year for those of us who soldier on and move into 2021. My hope is that we are able to take what we suffered through this year and spin ourselves into being able to look at things through a lens of more appreciation next year, or at least that's kind of my approach to 2021. I mean, Ben touched on it earlier. You get doing something for long enough, and there are times when you think like, oh, well, am I just doing the same thing all the time? Or, I know it's specifically for me, sometimes you get to a point in July or August of a minor league season where, in my case, 4 or 5 o'clock rolls around whenever my shift starts. I don't even remember when my shift would normally start on a normal night for minor league baseball because we haven't had it for so long. But you think to yourself like, work, it's going to be another late night. Like, just the normal exhaustion that you feel with any job. Next year, my hope and the thing that I look forward to most is the ability to not let those days go by without appreciating them more, because how easily something can be taken away from you. And, I've had stretches in my life and in my career before where I felt that way through just other stuff, personally or professionally, that has detoured me for a while. And when I got back from that, I did feel so much more appreciative of things. And unfortunately, it felt like that didn't last long enough before this hit. And now we've had this year to all slog through collectively. But I think that's the biggest thing for me is there is going to be a day for all of us, and not just the 3 of us on the show, but everybody listening. There is going to be a day, whether it's in summer 2021 or the holiday season or in 2022 or something, where you look around and you're sitting in a ballpark or you're sitting in a restaurant or you're sitting in a movie theater and you think, hey, we made it through that. And that is not to suggest that it's been easy and we got through unscathed or whatever, because a lot of people have made some unbelievably impossible to quantify sacrifices. And a lot of people have been lost. But I think it's our duty to those who have sacrificed and those who have done the right things, to try to create a better world and to appreciate the world that we have and to be kinder and better to each other, and appreciate the things in our own lives that we have and that we didn't get to do. I can't wait for my mom to be able to hug her grandchildren again. My sister and her family live just outside New York City. My mom hasn't seen them since February. She usually goes out there every month, every 6 weeks. So it's been almost a year now since my mom has seen her grandkids, and, she'll FaceTime with them and get off and immediately start crying. And my mom's not an overly emotional person. And so to see that, when I'm around my mom and she gets a chance to talk to them, that breaks my heart. And I can't wait for those things. I can't wait for that moment that we all have where you think we're here again and we can live this life again. And I think, if it's a circumstance where I'm writing a story about a prospect who went 6 innings and allowed 1 hit and no strikeouts and struck out 6 and walked 2, and you think, well, I mean, it's a good start. It's not a great start. That's a great start. It's not like a no hitter is what I'm quantifying on the basis of how we write stories. Don't worry about this part. This is not important to anybody other than me or Sam or Ben. But I think rather than thinking like, is this a story that we even really need to be writing? I think I'm going to be so much more keyed into the fact that this is something that we get to do again. And not something of, oh, well, it's work. Got to make sure we get through work today. And so I'm looking forward to that. And my hope is that it arrives for us all sooner rather than later. We don't know what 2021 is going to look like. Major League Baseball as of right now is planning a regular start to spring training into the regular season. As we know, it is currently 2:43 Mountain Time on December 23rd of 2020. By 2:46, this could be an entirely different world. I think that's what the last few years has shown us. But the fact that we have reached a point where we have vaccines that seem to be working, where we all have a larger understanding, I think, of the things that we need to do to be safe, and to take care of each other. Those are the positives that I want to take from 2020 and move into 2021 and be a little bit more appreciative of the things we do have when we get them all back.
Amen. Amen to that.
And hopefully, Sam and I can make up some kind of onesie with our shirts or with our faces on it, or a t-shirt or something to give to Ben for the child.
Oh, okay.
The child will never be without us.
I was really worried that this was to be like sold or like to put on a store.
No, we're just going to give Ben's kid an entire wardrobe that features our likenesses.
Okay. All right. I'm down.
Ben, you good with that?
Yeah. Now that you said it, it has to happen. I mean, I look forward to that. That's going to be awesome.
Okay, good. I floated that. We didn't really pregame on that idea, so good. I'm glad. Don't bring it up until you get the box in the mail. I would say don't bring it up beforehand because it'll probably get shot down. So just let us send it, and and then send us pictures every single day.
Sounds like a plan.
Well, guys, I love you both. It is crazy to me that we've been doing this for 7 years now, or however long it's been. And even though it's been a trying year and, a year in which I haven't gotten a chance to talk to you every single episode, Ben and Sam, we've had to work around a weird schedule of mine in large part. You guys are the best, and there's nobody else that I would want to do this show with. Sorry, Jake Seiner. I would love to have you back, but obviously Jake, RIP, working his other, a real journalist job. Everybody who's tuned in over the last few years, like, who's Jake Seiner? I don't know that name. But you guys are the best, and it's an honor to get to do this with you all the time.
Yeah, likewise. I enjoy it every week, and I'm just grateful to be a part of it, and love the energy you bring to it and the hard work, and let's just keep at it.
Yeah, that's as we've said over and over and over again. We've learned that we can do this show in 2020, and if there was ever a doubt of how well this show works and how well we all work together, that was never more on display than it's been in the last 12 months. And just imagine what that means for 2021, when we're going to have fresh topics to discuss each week, and a whole slew of new things and more people to bring on each week, and keep that energy going. So I'm always thankful for you guys. I'm always thankful for everybody listening at home or wherever you take us, whether it's in your car, for your walk around your neighborhood, just to get out of the house for a little while, etc. But grateful for you two and everybody out there in Josh Jackson's radio land.
And we are, indebted to, everybody else at our department too. Allison Creekmore and Dan Marinas and Nathan Blackman, our editors, Paige Schechter and Darren Smith, John Parker, Danny Weil, Chris Tripodi, Kelsey Hennigan, Josh, who we, bother way too often. And by the way, is now a resident of his native Maine. And I'm so thrilled for Josh to finally get a chance to be back home with his lovely wife, Ella, and their dog, Callie, and their cat, Mickey. But for Michael Avalone and Andrew Batterferrano and Katie Wu and Rob Terranova, Joe Bloss, Jordan Wolf, Brian Stoltz, Gerard Gilberto, we're tremendously indebted to everybody on our staff for continuing to give us such great stuff to talk about for the times that they come on and join us. We got a really great group of people, and it's, a situation that none of us could have ever foreseen, and the way we've been able to stick together and do some things to keep the site fresh and entertaining, and like Sam said, with no holes in coverage, we got a pretty incredible group, and we're very indebted to all of them. So that's going to wrap up this segment. We're going to say goodbye to Ben. Ben, do you buy like a pre-birth Christmas present? Do you get like a 2-month early Christmas present? So like when the kid comes, you can be like, hey, I'm already did this for you.
Nah, I'm gonna wait like 4 or 5 years before that. Like once the memories kick in. Until then, I'm saving.
That's a much better idea, and financially, that makes way more sense. Kid's not gonna know what's going on.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
good.
It's smooth sailing for now.
Until the memories kick in. Oh boy, that's gonna come up in therapy in 5 years.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
Sam and I will be back to wrap it up next. Putting a nice, tidy Christmas bow or holiday bow or Festivus bow. Today actually is Festivus. We're recording on the 23rd, which people have just dubbed Festivus. So
yeah, why didn't we do an airing of grievances? We could have done that.
We could have very easily done that.
We could have done a virtual feats of strength.
Much of my monologuing is just me airing grievances anyway. So we kind of do that week to week.
Yeah, we get there in the end. Jerry Stiller, we don't need your once a year celebration. We can do it on our own. Thank you.
Before we get out of here, Sam Dykstra has this week's nationwide prospect fact of the week.
Yeah, so we didn't really talk about winter ball so much on this episode, but that's something that's kind of continuing. And it's been really fun to see. Again, so much of what I talked about last time is prospects getting the chance to grow, getting the chance to see them do things. And the winter leagues are actually a great place for that to happen right now. The Dominican Winter League's just about to kind of wrap up. The Puerto Rican Winter League started a little later. So that's ongoing. And that's where we're going to start here, is the Puerto Rican Winter League. More officially, the Liga de Béisbol Profesional Roberto Clemente. One prospect I want to highlight from that group is Yankees pitcher Luis Medina, who has made 3 starts in the Puerto Rican Winter League. He has struck out 25 batters and walked only 4 over 11 2/3 scoreless innings. Now, 11 2/3 scoreless innings, not that much, but for him, that's huge. What really stands out to me there, obviously 25 strikeouts and 11 2/3 innings, basically striking out more than 2 batters an inning. That's a great rate for him, but also his control numbers are good. Only 4 walks in that time. Basically a 6.3 K per walk ratio there. Luis Medina, last time we saw him on a minor league field, he split time between Charleston and Tampa in the Yankees organization in 2019. And at that point, he walked 70 batters in 103 2/3 innings. Medina kind of fits the mold of what the Yankees have had in recent years. Really hard throwing, but has some control issues. You're willing to bet on the arm because, the tools are there in terms of what he throws and how hard he throws. But he needs to really find the zone in order to get the most out of that. So he's only 21 years old. He's already on the 40-man for the Yankees. His fastball is a 75 grade according to MLB.com. His curveball is 60, but the control comes in at a below average 40. So if he can take what he's doing right now in the Puerto Rican Winter League, continue to find the zone, continue to miss bats. He's right now the Yankees 11th ranked prospect, but he can make a huge jump if he's able to show that at the AA, or, potentially he doesn't have that much experience yet at Class A advance. So he could start out there or AA, brings that control with along the stuff. He's going to jump into the Yankees top 10 pretty quickly and maybe even become a top 100 prospect in time. And again, because he's on the 40-man, maybe we even see him with the Yankees next year. We'll see. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. He only turns 22 in May, but Luis Medina, given what he's showing right now in Puerto Rico, definitely one to watch as we head into 2021.
And with that, we will say goodbye to you for the final time in 2020 as a podcast that hopefully has brought you a little bit of distraction and some fun and some baseball conversation when we've been able to have it, and some nonsensical conversation otherwise, which we're always very talented at. We love all of you dearly. Your support over the last few years, and especially over this last year, has meant the absolute world to us. We hope whether you are able to be close to family and see somebody that you love or some people that you love for the holidays, please do so safely and cherish all that time together. Be safe when you're finalizing some of your Christmas shopping, as some of us are still trying to do on December 23rd. And wear your mask and wash your hands and keep your distance and just be good to each other. We're going to make it through. Don't lose sight of the fact that we're all still in this together, and show some love to your fellow human beings as you always show to us. And we're so grateful to have you along for this ride. And, as noted last segment, this is something that we also hope we're never going to have to do again, is do an entire year of a baseball podcast with virtually no baseball to talk about in the way that we ordinarily talk about it. And hopefully in just 4 months from now, we'll get a chance to talk about minor league baseball again, and we'll have some fun doing it. So to all of you, for Sam and for Ben and for all of us at MILB.com, my name is Tyler, and we will talk to you in 2021.